Okay, so have we lost any people? So just for this afternoon, okay, again, what we're going to do, and everybody can participate in this, is, you know, this is supposed to hopefully help everybody, okay? We're going to spend, and I'm like with teams 12, 2, and 3, okay? I'm going to basically spend an hour, like with the team, we'll project it, okay? Say, right, after the presentation, what research would you do next, okay? And we'll try to sort of like do this a little bit, and you know, select also those teams because I can show you different types of resources. You know, one is how do you think about how do you do good literature research, okay? It's not just about putting things into the keyboard, you know, it's about like how do you think about this, okay? How do you develop an algorithm in your mind, okay? Things like, so, you know, a little bit on the material science side, you know, some cost aspects maybe, some things, at the example of some medical things, I want to show you some other resources like, you know, there's government or regulatory resources sometimes, you know, the FDA, the Institute of Medicine, okay? There's a lot of stuff that can be found. You know, whether we find the right thing or not quickly, I don't know, okay? But there is, I just want to show you these types of resources because in all of your projects, you're going to find some types of resources like this. And in the educational space, I wanted to go a little bit into the science of you know, of the behavioral science sort of education, and so like, okay, well, if we now go to the social science side, and you know, and so on and so forth, where can we look, and how can we like find a path towards that? It's just sort of like to get you started, just to illustrate, you know, the thinking of the research and some of the resources that could be helpful for you. Not specifically those resources if you're on another team maybe, but you know, there are analogous ways of doing that. Okay? Everybody clear on that? Okay. So now, with pens. I wanted to show you something that I did recently. So this goes back to this communication, you know, issue. And so one thing that you could, what you can think about, okay? And this comes down to sort of like the very nature of innovation in a, you know, illustrated in a bit of a different way. Let's say we have two worlds, okay? One, I don't have a good word for this yet. The regular world. And one is the world of innovation, okay? So let's compare those two worlds, okay, on a high level fashion, okay? Now, what differentiates us as a human species, okay, as compared to other species on the planet, like, I don't know, apes, lions, whatever, okay, right, is that, I mean, on the very fundamental level, on the most sort of practical level, is that we're tool users, okay? You're sitting on the chair because somebody came up with that, and you can actually rely on it, or you trust it anyway not to break down as soon as you sit on it, right? Okay, we're wearing clothes, okay, we actually wouldn't be able to survive, you know, not in St. Petersburg in winter without clothes, right? So, you know, when the weather got colder, 20,000, I don't know, 10,000 years ago, whatever, you know, and instead of genetically mutating to grow more hair, right, we put a sharp stone onto a stick, okay, and say, well, there's a mammoth, okay, he has a nice furry coat, well, let's have it off him, okay? So we started to actually develop, you know, more quickly in a way because we created tools, okay? And everything, you know, every single second, okay, that we spent, we use tools, we rely on tools, okay? This pen, the color, the ink, the clothes, the desk, everything, okay? Building, you know, the light, okay? Fire. So, so in the regular world, okay, what really defines us is that we're tool users. Okay? Now, how do you, what does that imply? How can we use tools well?
You should know the purpose of the tool.
The purpose of the tool, okay?
Experience.
Experience.
Or maybe instruction.
Say again?
Instruction.
Instructions, exactly, okay? What does all of this imply? All those three things, okay, at the very, very fundamental level, what does that imply?
Knowledge.
Yes, also?
Skillful.
Also? And all these have to be acquired? But it implies, we'll get to that in a minute, it implies linearity. It implies cause and effect, right? When I turn on the shower in the morning and the water comes out, okay, it's not a matter of like, maybe today's Tuesday, so it could come out. In some places in the world it could, you know, but it's like that. But, you know, but I actually rely on, like, I do this, I've learned how to do this,
We're
okay?
not talking about America. North America.
No, okay, so maybe not the shower, okay, you know, like anything else, okay, right? Sitting down in a chair, I expect it not to break down, you know, and so on and so forth, right? So no, but that's how we learn, okay? That's how we learn how to use tools, okay? I learn exactly the purpose of the tool, right? The skill, the knowledge, okay? And that's also how we educate, right? Now, if you look back in history, and we'll go through some historical examples later in the course. If you look at how oxygen was discovered, okay, really in the historical archives, okay, it is a mess. You can't even really exactly figure out, you know, sort of who did what with absolute certainty, okay? Lots of people involved and so on and so forth, okay? But that's not how we teach chemistry. Right? We teach you oxygen has 6 valence electrons, it's the reactivity, okay, right, and so on and so forth, because we figured it out, because it would be, you know, terribly inefficient, okay, to go through 5-10 years or whatever to replicate the process of how we actually got to this knowledge, right? But of course, teaching that, you know, replicates nothing of how this knowledge was actually generated in the first place, okay? But what does this imply? It implies every society, every company, okay, right? We operate on the principle of division of labor. You know, from the earliest village, okay, saying like, oh, you're good at this sort of stuff, you become a smith. You know, you're strong, okay? You're, you know, good with nature. You become a farmer, and then we trade, right? Okay, specialization, okay, division of labor, right? So specialization, or I like to call it subject matter expertise, right? You're a really good physicist, you become a Nobel Prize winner, subject matter expertise, or you're really skilled mechanic, okay, you repair cars, you know, okay, it's a cumulative knowledge, right? And it also implies that what we do is, managerially speaking, we measure outcome, right? As a manager of a company, I say, okay, well, you know, let's do the balance sheet for this year. You know, you're the accountant, okay? I come back in a week, you know, after we're done, okay, after you're done, I look at the outcome, right? So at manager, and this goes back to the PowerPoint thing, you know, we communicate at very specific times and we manage like, okay, well, you do this, and it's a function of the division of labor and the subject matter. You know how to do this, go off and do it. Bring it back, you do this, bring it back, you know, we look at this, okay, we measure the outcome, we bring it together, we do the next step. But it's a digital way, sort of like, you know, well, in signal processing you would say it would be discrete, right, as compared to, you know, continuous. It would be discrete in terms of as compared to analog signals, right? Okay. What the other thing that this implies, and it's very important for education also, we're dealing with constrained and fixed, parameters with limited variability or limited variables. Okay? when I teach you physics of how to shoot something from a cannon, okay, then I'm going to fix a lot of parameters in education. You say like, oh, assume the cannon is important, assume that this problem is important. You don't know that, okay, and so on and so forth. And I constrain the problem, right? Because really there's tons and tons of variables. Okay, why would we even consider, how a cannon shoots? Why is that important, right? But in accountancy, like you use your subject matter expertise, okay, in this area. Don't worry about the rest of the stuff. You work in this confined variable space, right? Okay, and you assume everything on the around you is fixed. And in this world, you apply what you've learned, right? First you learn something, and then you apply it. And then you apply it over and over and over and over again, okay? So what this implies, okay, is linearity, cause and effect. I do this, this happens. I do it again, it happens again. You do this, I do this over here, we put it together, right, okay? We measure this, and so on, right? And that's how we're productive as tool users. So we're all these tool users. We learned, got educated, got skills, whatever, to use these tools, right? And in a way that this is not quite the right word yet, okay? What this produces is operational efficiency. Right? And over the last 20 years, remember that in the book we talk about how we really sort of stopped innovating on the scale that we innovated before, in the 90s, okay? But there was this phase of operational efficiency, first outsourcing things around the globe, okay? Then outsourcing labor, okay, having call centers in India, and so we were driving the cost out of every corporation. We were not really working on the revenue, the top line anymore. We were working on reducing, the cost, making things more and more efficient in the operation of the company, okay? But this is the world that the majority of the, humans everywhere in the world function in, okay? Whether you're in society works the same way, right? Innovation. All you know about the innovation process now, it should be relatively obvious. Once in a while, it doesn't have to be the majority of the world or population or so on, okay? But once in a while, people have to create new tools, right? Okay? And that's what you guys are, right? And, well, what does this involve? It's compared to division of labor, as you see, MIT, it has to be integrative, okay, in your team. It has to be collaborative, right? Okay? As compared to subject matter expertise, you need a lot of knowledge, okay, but you acquire it when you need it, okay? But you really have to be multidisciplinary, right? Okay? And instead of measuring outcome, taking snapshots of the universe, like as I showed to you, at every given point, it's not really, it's like, oh, this is what it is. If you were to, at any given point, take those bubbles and reduce them to zero, and leave out the complexity, and leave out, all this information about what you don't know at this point, right, and how it relates, then you would measure outcome. Right? But what we really need to do is we need to measure process, right? Okay? And instead of in a constrained fixed parameters with a limited number of variables, okay? Again, it should be obvious to you from the MIT model is that we have to consider all variables. And the more variables with more uncertainty simultaneously, you know, and if, then the more fundamental the innovation. It works out, right? And what we're doing here is we're not applying what we've learned. What we're applying, and now you have to bear with me, is we have to learn what you may be able to apply. Okay, so you have to learn what you or I would even, you can continue this, go one step further, you might want to learn what you may need, learn what you may need to learn to potentially apply, okay? This is what I was talking about at the beginning, that the universe will probably grow, because at the beginning you don't know what you don't know. And once you learn these things, you start to know what you don't know, okay? But you don't know whether it's going to be relevant and so on and so forth, okay? This process is fundamentally nonlinear. It is question-driven, not answer-driven. And it is the core of economic growth. Okay? Now, if you look at those two things next to each other like this, okay? It's kind of obvious that these two methods of thinking don't really mix very well, right? And it's very obvious also that, you know, if you are alone thinking like this, okay, and you're in a world of this, it's pretty discouraging, right? Okay, so, but you guys did a great job in working in teams and finding each other and thinking together like this, right? And this can be very invigorating, okay? But you always have to remember that the majority of the world operates in this linear fashion, okay? And they will not understand a lot of the things that we have talked about. Okay? It's frustrating, I know, okay? But that's the way it is, okay? And that's okay, okay? Because, you know, that's how we look, you know, as a human species, okay? You don't need 1 million of these, you know? But you need enough, okay? And at the moment we don't even have close to enough, okay? But it'll always be difficult to sort of fully integrate into this world. So you're really serving the innovation process to some extent, right? There is a quote that I kind of like, although it was like about something totally different, and I discovered in a preface. I didn't even read the book existential philosophy book by Jean-Paul Sartre. It was a preface to that, and that was quoting something from like 1910 or 1920 philosophy, but roughly it went like this. The world always goes through 3 stages with new theories, and you can apply this just with innovation, the same way in innovation. Like the first is, there is a better way, like the original is better, but it's like everybody thinks you're crazy, like it'll never work, you know, you're just, you know, out there or whatever, okay? The second is, well, people say, well, maybe there is something in it, but it's not practical, it's not going to work, you know, and so on, right? And you shouldn't keep doing it. The third phase is always people acknowledge that it's important, that it works, and by the way, they've always said so. Okay? Now think about this. You go like, oh, that's kind of unfair, you know, like, I put in all this effort, where's my glory, right? But think about what we're doing in innovation. We're not creating tools just to create tools. We're creating tools so that they're used, okay, by society. If society does not take that on, if they don't make the tools their own, they're not going to use them, and we failed as innovators, right? So therefore, they have to take this, and again, the identity. They have to take the identity out of your hands, and that's okay, you know, because there's enough value creation there, you know, that this works out, and you need this. Okay, there's no innovation and no tool creation without tool users. Okay, I just wanted to show you these sort of, you know, two worlds that, and that, you know, keep in mind when we also with respect to the tool and the innovation process and the uncertainty and so on, right? That this linearity here is quite inherent to us, and we actually, all of us, do it every day, because in the simple things we don't question when we sit down in a chair. We have learned, we have studied in university in this fashion as well, because it's efficient. Okay? Make sense? Okay. Are we, so now I guess we might break for lunch?
Yes.
You hungry? Yeah.
Do you understand exactly that you give next lecture from 2 till 3 for everyone?
Yeah, well, that's fine. Yeah, I want everybody who can participate.
Till 3.
That's fine. I mean, we can continue. Like, what is the original plan?
No,
I mean,
we were planning till 2 to 5.
2 to 5, right? Yeah, yeah. But it's working live, and people can participate any way they want. Right?
Значит так, давайте тогда так. У нас следующая лекция такая, типа гибкая, с 2 до 5.
Это не лекция,
Ну, не лекция,
он будет рассматривать конкретные проекты.